I shouldn't have gone. The invitation arrived under the door of my apartment without any reference or explanation, just a blank sheet of paper with black letters that said, "Party at the address Rua da Aurora, N313, starts at midnight. Come, alone." There were no more details. I didn't know who sent it nor how they knew my address. My curiosity spoke louder. After all, who organizes a party like that? Maybe it was a prank or a secret party. The address was an old mansion, famous in the city for being abandoned for years. At midnight, I arrived at the place. The mansion was gigantic, with rusty gates and a facade that seemed to have resisted time. But to my surprise, the lights were on. I heard muffled music coming from inside and occasional laughter. It looked like a normal party, until I entered. I opened the front door and was greeted by a scene that immediately made me uncomfortable. There were dozens of people dancing in the main hall, all dressed in elegant clothes, as if it were a ball. But the strangest thing was the absolute silence. Despite the vibrant atmosphere and the lively expressions, there was no sound. None. I saw couples moving around the center of the hall as if they were listening to the sound of a waltz, but the why? Steps were completely silent. A group of people near the counter seemed to be talking, but their mouths moved without uttering a word. I looked around, trying to find some explanation. Maybe it was a strange performance, some artistic installation, but the more I looked, the more I realized there was something wrong with those people. Their movements were a little off, unnatural, almost mechanical, like manipulated dolls. I tried to talk to someone. A woman close to me wearing a long red dress was laughing at something a man was saying. "Hi, do you know who organized this party?" I asked, but she didn't answer. In fact, she didn't even look at me. It was as if I wasn't there. A shiver rose up my spine. I tried to find the exit, but when I turned around, the hall looked different. The door through which I entered was no longer there. The hall now extended with more people occupying the space, all dancing, talking, but without sound. I walked around the hall, trying to find any clue of what was going on. The place seemed much bigger inside than outside. All of that was extremely strange. That's when I saw a large door. Finally, that should be the exit. As I crossed the room, I came across a bizarre scene. Instead of people, there were dolls. Many of them scattered all over the place. As I walked to the back of that hall, I saw even more dolls. What was that place? That was enough to make me decide to go back through the door I had come from. However, things only got worse. In the room where there used to be people dancing, now there were countless dolls occupying their places. My God, what's going on? They were not people. Their skins were too smooth, without pores, like porcelain. Their eyes were motionless, fixed in expressions that did not change. Looking closer, I saw that their fingers were too thin. And when the man closest to me moved his head, I heard a slight rattle like rusty metal. They were dolls, all of them. I was paralyzed, trying to process what I was seeing. It was when the lights flashed, and for a fraction of a second, everyone stopped. Everyone looked straight at me. At that moment, the silence seemed more deafening than any sound I had ever heard. I ran. For what seemed to be an eternity, I crossed corridors that never ended, trying to find a way out. But the mansion seemed to play with me. Every door I opened led me back to the main hall, and every time I came back, there were more people, all standing looking at me. Finally, I found a ladder that led to the basement. I went down in a hurry, tripping on the steps. The basement was lit only by a weak light, but it was enough for me to see. Down there were more dolls, hundreds of them, piled up as if they were being stored. Some were incomplete, with cracked faces or missing limbs. Others were wearing clothes that I recognized, the woman's red dress, the tender man she was talking to, and in the center of the basement there was a table with a list. My name was there. It was when I felt something behind me. I turned around slowly and saw a tall figure with a mask that looked like it was made of rusty metal, holding something that looked like a face mold. I didn't say anything, but it took a step toward me. I began to run desperately toward the basement stairs, but no matter how far I went, I could never reach them. The place seemed to extend infinitely. My heart beat uncontrollably, and my desperation increased with each step. Passing through that bizarre basement, I began to hear various voices, sinister whispers, which made that nightmare even more disturbing. After a while, I entered a long corridor and began to run. At the end of it, I found a door. I needed to hide and try to make a call. I ran through the door and entered a basement room all dirty and full of scattered boxes. I crouched behind the boxes and grabbed my cell phone. To my misfortune, there was no signal. How am I going to get out of this? It's not possible. Why? Did I accept the invitation to this place? I thought desperately. I began to pray with my heart beating and my breath suffocating. It was then that I heard a noise in the room. When I got up to look, I saw the same creature that was in the other room. I was paralyzed at that moment. The creature began to move, and to my horror, it seemed that I was being controlled. His eyes were shining, and I felt my body tingling. I just couldn't control my movements anymore, and against my will I got up and began to walk toward him. The creature was horrendous, something that could only exist in nightmares. Then he said, "You shouldn't have come here. It's too late now. You will become one of my dolls. Don't worry, it won't hurt at all." After that, everything was dark. When I regained consciousness, I was dizzy and confused. My body was moving on its own, and to my horror, I realized that I was in front of a doll in the shape of a woman. My God, what was that? I looked down and saw that I was trapped in the body of a doll. I moved, but I wasn't the one controlling the movements. That nightmare had become eternal. I could hear and feel everything around me, but I couldn't move by my own will or speak. That was my eternal punishment in that cursed house, an existence trapped in silence and dark